On today's episode of the Tax Talk podcast, I am here with Garth Epp. Garth is a business coach and mindset motivator. He is here to talk today with us about the working geniuses and how you can use this framework to get the most out of your employees, getting them into the right seats within the business to ensure that not only they are reaping the most out of the business and the opportunities that they are presented with, but that the organization and you as an owner can see the business grow and everybody is fulfilled to the best of their abilities. Welcome to the Tax Talk podcast. I am sitting here today with Garth Epp for an exciting new episode. Garth is the co-owner of Your Limits Lifted with his wife Melanie. The business focuses on coaching, mentoring, speaking and training, and the provision of online web-based tools. Garth is a growth-minded, strategic thinker who never settles in the successes of yesterday, but always tries to build into the future. Garth, thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join me on the podcast today.
Thank you, Jared. What is this? This is about, fifth time?
I think we're up to number 5 now, so apparently you are a popular repeat guest of the show, so looking forward to chatting again on new topic here. So today we are touching on something that I am definitely looking forward to learning a bit more. I think it's vitally important to get this figured out for any business owner to ensure you're getting the most out of yourself and all of the staff that are working for you. And that topic is working genius. Now, Garth brought this to one of our bi-weekly networking events, probably back in late 2024, kind of briefly talked on that at that particular point in time. And I figured, why not have him on? We can delve into this a bit more. I wanted to see how it would, apply to the firm. And I'm sure it'll be useful in helping you proceed with getting some of this information into your business as well. So, without further ado, Garth, can you explain to us what is the 6 types of working genius?
So absolutely. So first of all, the 6 working genius, this model was, presented, identified by Patrick Lencioni. Okay. And Patrick Lencioni, most people know him for the 5 dysfunctions of a team, that book and the teaching and his identifying of that. And then he has, through the work that he was doing, particularly some of the frustrations he was having as the CEO of his firm, came up with this model of the 6 working geniuses. And basically what it is he's identified that there are 6 areas within completing a task, work, planning a family vacation, managing your household, managing your business, that there are kind of 5 working areas that need to come together for success. Okay. And within that, there's kind of 5, there is 6 then geniuses that are required, one for kind of each piece. Okay. And each of us, the model that he's come up with, each of us have probably 2 of those are a competency. Okay. 2 of those we excel at, and 2 of those are frustration. Okay. And we don't all have all 6 of them, and that's why we need each other. Right. And real quick, they consist of wonder. Okay. Invention. Discernment. Yeah. Galvanizing. Okay. Enablement and Tenacity. Perfect. So if you followed through, they spell out widget.
Oh, interesting.
But so if you want to get something done, you want to create a new widget, you need the 6 working geniuses to make that happen.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it just kind of boils down to anything. Like you said, planning that family vacation. there are certain skills that everybody has, and getting those people with those skills into the right places is going to make planning that family vacation a little bit easier, or helping the business owner to, navigate where his staff should be to get the most out of them, to be able to serve his clients the best, and just get the most value for everybody that's involved with whatever it is that they're doing.
Yes, and these are working geniuses in that they come naturally to us. They're not necessarily part of a personality. And one thing that these working geniuses do is they can step outside of our roles. And as we dig into them, we can see how that works. But there are natural inclinations and natural giftings that we have that are that really become our superpowers, that can kind of supersede some of the roles that we feel that we have because of the role that we have in the business or in the company, and even our employees.
Right.
And as we unpack that, we'll give some clarity to what I'm really referencing when I'm talking about that.
Okay, no, that's fair. So would you kind of say that summarizes what that model basically attempts to do within the workplace? It just kind of dissects these individuals into these particular strengths and then gets them into the particular places that are best suited for them to apply those skills, I guess?
It does. It does. And I'd say let's kind of break them down a little
Sure,
bit, and we'll
sure.
give some definition to each, and then how they might fit together and how that might work.
Perfect.
Work together. So W being wonder. And wonder is really the gift of pondering.
Okay.
Kind of thinking through it, going, okay, so why? Why do we do this? What if?
Right.
So they're asking the why questions and the what if questions, maybe a little bit philosophical.
Okay.
But they are stepping back and going, like, what? Well, even now, as we're looking at this transition into this whole AI, like, okay, what is AI going to do? How's it going to change, what we're doing? How is it going to change how? And really kind of spending time in that, I'm going to say exploratory stage, and just thinking it through on a broader picture.
Okay.
Often people that are in this stage don't recognize it as a genius, but it absolutely is, a working genius, because they can help create some of the framework and see some of the opportunity that is out there.
Right. So someone that is, strong in this particular area, you'd probably want to give them some of the levers of control within the business to, maybe make some decisions for the future, give them the opportunities to take on some responsibility to maybe put some of these visions into place. Is that kind of how that would work?
Yeah, so if you are, and maybe we'll dissect it a little more as we go through, but if you are, doing some vision casting, if you're looking at opportunity, if you're looking at, okay, where are we going? It would be very helpful to have somebody that naturally thinks that way.
Right.
Because like I said earlier, each of us, we have two strengths. Of these six, two of them are going to be strengths, two of them are going to be competent in,
Right.
and two of them, there are going to be a frustration.
Okay.
So when I say they're a competency, we're okay with it. If
Right.
it's a strength, it actually gives us joy and energy.
Right. Right.
And if it's our frustration, it's going to probably suck the life right out of it. And it's those tasks that we look at in our job and a role and go, I hate, I hate doing this.
Not again, eh?
So if you have somebody, so if you're doing some vision casting, having someone in that wonder place is going to be super, it's just a whole lot more fun, a whole lot more productive, probably going to put you in a whole lot more of a creative space.
Right.
If you're doing that, if someone is in their working genius in that.
Excellent.
So again, kind of walking through wonder. The second one is invention.
Okay.
So invention is they have the natural gift of really creating novel ideas, and they're kind of taking that wonder and going, okay, this is how we could implement. This is what we could do to implement those ideas. And they kind of put the practical legs into this is how we're going to make this happen.
Okay.
And they take that and they generate these new ideas and they generate that creativity. So they kind of build on what the wonder is. And then if we're moving a little further into the D is for discernment. And there are people that just have a gut feeling.
Fair enough.
There's some people that go, you know what? The timing isn't quite right.
Right.
My wife is one of these people. She just has this discerning spirit about her. And this kind of understanding that she goes, oh, you know what? I don't think that's right. We need to work on that a little bit more.
Okay, fair enough.
And she's probably watching and probably listening. Most of the time, she's right.
Way to throw that out there.
Most of the time, so the discernment people, they're the ones that kind of have that gut feel of, okay, is it the right time to step forward in this? Is it not the right time? Do we have it nailed down? And it's not necessarily that they're an expert in fully dissecting, what's happening. It's very much of a subjective.
Interesting.
A subjective gut reaction. I don't know if you can think of anybody like that in your personal world or in your business world, but they just have that discernment strength that they can go, okay, we're going to take now what the inventor has done, and you know what? That's pretty good, but I think we need to do it this way. They're the ones that say, hey, I think we need to, and then they kind of go, whoa, that's good. I like that.
Gotcha.
And then you've got your galvanizers. And your galvanizers, they're the ralliers. They're the ones that are going to kind of, the wanderers kind of helped create some of the opportunity or think into the opportunity. You've got your inventors that have taken that and put some legs to it. The discerners have helped define it a little bit better, saying, hey, this is where we're going. The galvanizers now are selling the idea around them. They're the ones that are gathering in the people, and they're going to kind of rally the troops.
Okay.
Going back to the family vacation, they're the one rallying the rest of the family going, okay, we're doing this. And they just have that ability to get people to buy in.
Right.
Again, it's not necessarily, it's just kind of who they are. Typically you'll kind of walk into a staff room, you walk into they're going to be, there's usually a little crowd around them.
Right.
And when they want to do something, they're the ones asking, okay, who are we going to do it with?
Gotcha.
How are we going to make this happen? And then you have the enablement people, the enablement. And they just have the natural gift of encouragement, and they just have the assistance to help take that idea and make it happen.
Okay.
So they're, what the inventors have kind of taken, the discerners have said, yes, okay, this is where we're going.
Right.
And, the galvanizers have gathered the people. Now enablers are going to go, okay, let's make this happen. And they actually help make the plan. They help pull off the plan.
Right.
They can see they are the ones that kind of help gather. Once the galvanizers have gathered them, they're like, okay, let's now push this forward.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
And then your tenacity, they just have the gift of pushing things to completion. They are the finishers. Because if you don't have a finisher, you got a lot of undone, and you can kind of see what can happen. You have lots of inventors.
Right.
Invention happening on your team, but you don't have somebody that's a galvanizer that's kind of rallies the troops together. All you have is a whole pile of great ideas.
Right. And nothing to show for it.
And nothing to show for it, chances are. And if you don't have those tenacity people, it might not get that project across the finish line. They might not actually see that, pushed right through to the end. So that's kind of a quick overview of the 6 and how they might play together.
Well, that makes sense. So does it always kind of work in that sequence? Like, the way that you kind of explained it there, I understand, you kind of have an idea and you translate it on down the line, but I suppose you could probably, have something crop up here and maybe it has to go back a couple steps back to the wonder stage, and maybe we need to completely reinvent what it is that we're coming up with. And then you're probably constantly seeing ideas within the business kind of move up and down the line. And then eventually, like you say, hopefully more often than not, you're seeing those tenacity folks take some of those ideas to the finish line and keep moving that business forward then.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily that you're always starting from, W all the way through to the T. However, you can kind of see if there are gaps in your team.
That makes sense.
You can see where you might get stuck.
Right.
So there's kind of a few different aspects where you can look at this. If you have a team and there's gaps, there's probably different probably not maximizing the full efficiency of what you're really trying to do. So if you know, again, if you just got a whole team of invention, you probably have these great ideas, but you might not see them finished, might not see the implementation, might not see the full power of it all the way through.
Right.
The other thing is you might have people in different roles in your business.
Right.
And sometimes we have people where some of their key roles are actually to do some of their biggest frustrations with their working genius.
Right.
And it actually can be then extremely demotivating
For sure.
to them. So there's a few different ways that this could play out and does play out within the business. And and we can chat through some of those if you wish.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That makes a lot of sense to get a good handle on that, see how this flow of information and ideas works. And I think to your point just now, if you're missing a cog in that wheel, well, you're probably going to have a hard time getting down the road if you're missing one or two of those spokes in there. Yeah, maybe you have a million ideas that are coming through, but you have no one to carry out on them. Well, that's not going to be overly useful. And then, yeah, maybe you've got a whole bunch of people that are about galvanizing, but we've got nothing to galvanize around. We have no ideas here. So striking some sort of balance is going to be essential for any business to ensure that they're moving these ideas through to that end stage to kind of keep moving that business cycle along.
Absolutely. And it can help with employee retention,
Right.
satisfaction on a team.
Right.
Because you may have somebody that's in a role that maybe is not naturally geared to one of those areas.
Okay.
But they still have a lot to contribute. Because one of the unique things about it is most of us, we do these things whether we work out of this genius, whether we're cognizant of it or not.
Okay.
We are going to gravitate towards the activities
Right.
that are going to give us the opportunity to exercise this genius. Because most of us aren't necessarily always thinking about that's our genius, but it's the things that give us life and enjoyment.
Right.
And on the flip side, if we're stuck doing the things that suck life from us and that we don't enjoy,
Right.
it creates a completely different work experience, and it can just give a completely different overall satisfaction experience of what we're doing.
Makes sense.
And often what businesses get caught in is we often will look at some of these 6 different geniuses and go, well, that's not your role.
Right.
Being an accounting firm,
Mm-hmm.
that you might have some staff that are in let's say in a wonder stage, but maybe they're a junior staff and they're just kind of in their office, doing their thing, and they naturally wouldn't be invited into a vision casting meeting.
Right.
However, they actually may be the perfect person to be in that meeting.
Good point.
Because they have just a general understanding, or if you could pose the question to them, that they actually might be even thinking of those things all day as they're doing their tasks already. Not because they were told to do it, it's because that's just
where they
what
go
they
to.
do.
Yeah.
That's just where they go. That's just what they do. And there's probably some people that are in those partner meetings that are going, oh geez, we have another one of these planning meetings, and they're just itching to get back into their office so they can just
do the work.
Maybe maybe they're the enablers and they just want to just get this done.
Right.
So yes, we can be in a position that is naturally geared to those, but we're probably missing out. I'm going to say a lot of business are probably they are missing out if they're not tapping in to those geniuses, because you may have someone, on a junior level that could just add value.
Right.
If you got someone with discernment, it's just a good idea to run some stuff past them. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Because you can kind of go through and still do, you can look at an advertising piece of a layout of a brochure or a website, and there's kind of the layout it should be, but the discernment people, they go, you know what? I think you need to move this here. They just have that innate, something's not right.
Right.
and again, no matter what their position is, if you have those people on your team, it's not a bad idea to involve them in those decisions.
Gotcha. So I think that kind of explains my next question. Are there specific roles that, each individual is best suited for? But I don't think it's necessarily geared that way. You kind of have to look at it maybe in the reverse. Maybe there is someone that is on the junior level, but their skills are maybe more broadly based in just looking at the overall direction of the business. Now, yeah, maybe you need to bring them along. They need to get, acquainted with the process and the clients and how things work to a certain extent. But I think if you can find out what each of your employees' strengths are in these, particular areas, you could then move them to roles that would be more beneficial. They're working in their strength as opposed to consistently working in their frustration, as you put it. Because I think I'm a big believer, and I presume a lot of business owners are, is if you can get your staff into the positions where they enjoy working in, they're probably going to thrive in that particular position. That'll generate more value for you, for them, for the client, for everybody involved. So I think if you take an overall look at your business and just see where do some of these people maybe work out of, and then maybe tailor their role to specifically allow them to work in their strengths as opposed to sitting in their frustrations all day, is probably what you should be doing as a business owner.
Exactly. There'd be a number of different ways you could approach this. First of all, if you got a team, now you're cognizant of this, to kind of go, okay, we should do the assessment and just take a look at it and just say, what is our team? Who's here and where are they? What are the geniuses that we're working with?
Right.
And chances are it's going to give some clarity right off the bat to go, oh, that's why this, or that's why they avoid this. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
And, so it could even just help do some shuffle of responsibility to go, hey, you know what?
Right.
We have this person doing this task. Why don't we just shuffle it to them and take this task that they have, let's shuffle it to this person, and you just might get, more productivity and a higher level of satisfaction out of your employees. Or as you're looking at staff expanding, to go, okay, you know what, we are looking for a role, or this role is really a wonder type role. We're kind of looking for somebody with this. So can actually include, an assessment, include some of that in the hiring process.
Sure.
And you can, be building a team then that has some level of balance.
Right.
And as this was introduced to us for the first time, my working geniuses are, I'm a WI.
Okay.
So those are my areas. And as we were kind of becoming aware of this and doing more learning and studying, my wife just kind of started laughing. And she said, oh, so that's why when you keep saying, okay, by the end of the week, we need to have this done, this done, this done, and this done in our business. She said, that's your cry for help, isn't it? Because tenacity is one of my frustrations.
Okay.
I got a hard time finishing.
Right.
And if you see the WI, I'm like right at the beginning. I like the creative side. So I can get caught in it. If I have to either finish a task or think of a new concept, I am naturally going to go to the new concept side, the new development side, and I am not going to finish.
Gotcha.
Because I can come up with some of the excuses in my mind if we don't have the accountability in the team, and I'm naturally going to go there.
Right.
Now her gifts are the D and the DT, the discernment and the tenacity. So I really have kind of leaned on her to go, okay, well, let's get this done. Can you help me get it done? I can't see how to complete this. Right. And she then can help me kind of walk through it. Now, I'm not talking about, just we do what we like and then we just dump off to the others that we don't. However, it can help just give some balance. And when I'm in that wonder and invention stage, and I give it to her in the discernment side, and she goes, no, that's not right. Mm-hmm. I've learned I should trust her. Because chances are she's right. She's not fully fallen in love with the idea of I have. However, on the flip side, she's had to learn, like, how to do that wonder and invent, be in that wonder with me.
Right.
Because she can suck the life out of the wonder stage for me. If I'm trying to, if I'm in that pondering stage and asking the questions, she just wants to come to the conclusions.
Right.
And I'll have to kind of remind her, saying, okay, I'm in wonder right now. And that's the cue.
Let me be.
That's the cue for, okay, let's get some dialogue and let's sit in this place. We don't have to come to conclusions right now, because she will naturally jump into discernment.
I see.
So she's evaluating while I'm wondering.
Right. You haven't even got your ideas onto the table, and she's ready to move on with the first one that's come out the door.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So then as we're doing brainstorming, it's actually helped us to go, okay, this is where we're at. So again, a bit of a picture of how these can work together.
Yep.
And how then we can be efficient.
Gotcha. So did you guys need to kind of go through an assessment process to kind of determine that, or did you, essentially have some of this knowledge just for obviously being together for a number of years, and this maybe clarified it to a certain extent? Like if a business owner wants to, figure this out for their employees, is it beneficial to go through and, get each employee to go through the assessment and then kind of start making some shifts as a result of whatever they figure out from that assessment?
Sure. So the great thing about this model is it's simple. It's not a complicated model. And if you go to Patrick Lazione's, he's got the podcast about, walking through it, but even his YouTube videos, again, I've kind of described a lot of it already. And so the assessment is a 10-minute assessment. It's very minimal cost, to go on his website and get that done. Mm-hmm. Again, it can be done to different levels. It can just kind of raise our awareness to go, hey, okay, this is where we're at. And then obviously you can take it a little bit further. Right. And in some of the coaching work, we kind of help people maximize the productivity and the communication with team, right, and definitely use this model to help, raise the satisfaction level, right, as well as raise the productivity, right, of an individual or of the company.
No, that makes sense. And yeah, we've touched on it. If you can get those people to where they are working out of their strengths, I think it's going to be best for everybody long term. So yeah, I think it's maybe a different shift of maybe where traditionally business owners maybe come from. You're probably hiring for a particular position. These are the duties that we need out of it. They're maybe traditionally based. I know it is for us. If we need junior staff, typically speaking, I need you to kind of come in and do basic tax work and basic accounting. And that's what I kind of need you to do. But like I could speak for myself, as I kind of got into accounting a little bit more, then I start to kind of realize, well, yeah, I don't mind doing this. I could make a living doing it. Is filling out tax returns on a daily basis over and over and over and over again what I really enjoy doing? Not really. So for me to sit in the office for 12 hours a day for the rest of my life doing that, I definitely got to the point where I was already frustrated doing that. Whereas I could start to see, I prefer, learning some new things, envisioning where the business could go, taking on a podcast, learning new things, and then taking some of that knowledge and then helping to apply it to my clients. That's where I feel the most value for me. I know it translates into value for my clients, and then so to speak for the firm too. So I think if you could get everybody to that point, stop maybe hiring just on these well-defined roles and instead kind of find people for the right positions as far as seeing these ideas kind of move along the cycle, that's probably where you're going to see some good benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. And even now, just a practical way that you can implement it within a team is, if you have a galvanizer, mm-hmm, and you're instituting some change,
right?
Not a bad idea to walk into the galvanizer's office and get some buy-in from them.
Right.
Because if they get buy-in, they're probably going to
get everybody on board.
They're going to get everybody on board.
Right.
And if you have someone with that discernment gift, and if you're thinking of something, we're thinking of this and this, either inviting them into the meeting or just even walking into their office and go, hey, we're like, what do you think?
Right.
You know, we're thinking of this, what, like, any thoughts?
Right.
And it's like, oh. Or if somebody has that, you know, again, that gift of invention or that gift of, you know, wonder as you're kind of, you know, thinking through something or trying to work on some systems and process, if they are, even if they're in a more junior position,
Right.
and if that's one of their strengths, to have them come and talk about process, they've already probably thought of it already.
Oh, I would imagine.
They just
yeah.
haven't maybe vocalized the idea,
Right.
but to bring them in and go, hey, what do you think? What do you think of this? Like, we're looking on a system. You have any ideas? So it can be done really formally,
Right.
but it can also be done really informally.
Right. Right.
And that's then going to help, that's then, again, going to buy in. Because if that's the area that gives them joy, that gives them life, and that gets them kind of fulfillment, they're going to feel a higher value, and they're going to, you know, it's going to pull you a little bit tighter together as a team.
For sure.
As opposed to somebody that maybe has the position, and it's like, okay, come up with a new system.
Right. Right. They might hate it or might not have any interest in doing it.
No, and chances are, as the day goes on, that system thing, that's what they're going to do. And, you know, at the end of the day, and the chances are they'll fill the day up, and then
Right.
we'll just bump it to tomorrow, and we'll bump it to tomorrow.
Right,
Because
right,
a lot
right,
of our
right.
frustrations in our jobs can be identified because they're the things that either get procrastinated or tend to get to the bottom of the list and then move to the top of the list, or not even the top of the list, but they move from the today's list to tomorrow's
Right.
list.
And so on, and so on.
And so on and so on, exactly, down the line.
Gotcha.
And
That's
and
good.
just need someone like my wife to say, this is your cry for help, isn't
Right,
it?
right.
And we laughed, but it actually was like, yes.
Makes sense.
And she could then help me,
Yep.
and I could just go, oh, okay, I got some help here.
Right. You live in your strength, and she does too, and things move forward.
Things move
Is-
forward.
Perfect. So we've kind of discussed how these ideas, I guess, flow along. You know, they don't necessarily need to start from the beginning and always go right through the end. But are there certain people with these strengths that are good to work together, and I guess vice versa, people that just don't work well together? Like, if you're needing a particular idea to come to fruition, if you have two of these individuals working on that, it's just going to go nowhere. Or you need an idea taken to that next stage. Are there two kind of, you know, personalities or strengths, however you want to classify them, that don't work well together?
Well, really, the geniuses, they're going to work kind of in unison and together,
Okay.
depending on kind of the tasks.
Okay.
So again, if you're having kind of a creative, if you have kind of a creatives meeting that you need, and you have a couple of discernments and a bunch of galvanizers,
Yeah.
probably going to have a lot of fun. But maybe real struggling on that creative side.
Right. Right.
Again, if you've got a lot of the invention people, I've got a lot of great ideas, but are they actually going to go anywhere?
Right.
Are they going to get implemented? So I would say no, it's probably more depending on the task
Okay.
and the overall, like what business are you in and where are you going and what are you trying to accomplish? But it's the balance. It's the balance, and then it's also in the light then of how to interpret,
Right.
you know, what they're doing. Again, you know, that discernment person, you know, they will, when you know you have that, I know not to question my wife on different things,
Right.
because she may not be able to give all the, let's say, the technical reasons for why something might not work.
Oh, okay. She just feels what she feels, and she's kind of going with her gut.
She's kind of going with that gut.
Right.
And there's just people that have that gut feeling. It's like, you know what? Yeah, we're going through the hiring process. You got someone with discernment. Probably a good idea to
Right.
go, yeah, I just don't think that's.
That's the right fit right
I
now.
would go. I would say, wow, okay. I would take that seriously.
Right. Right.
So again, it all kind of depends on what you're trying to do. What are you trying to accomplish? What's the task?
Makes sense.
And then how are you interpreting, you know, the different styles?
Right, right. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's important as business owners to, be aware of everybody's strengths and try and get them into those positions as best as possible. I know, it's not always easy to kind of do that, especially, maybe depending on what industry that you're in. I know for a fact that a lot of the work that we do is fairly rigid, and, we just, like you said before, we just need to get the work done. And, we need a lot of people, I guess, that are kind of in that tenacity range, that are just willing to get stuff done. If I have a number of people that are maybe in the wonder stage and I'm just needing you to get tax returns done, maybe I'm not going to get the end result that I'm looking for. So, yeah.
And overall, chances are, if somebody, like, I would be a horrible accountant, but I would never even get to the point where you would hire me, because I would have dropped out in the introduction.
Intro to accounting 101.
Intro to accounting, I would have gone, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is crazy. So there is that element that, chances are we are going to already be leaning towards different professions that we naturally get life from.
Sure.
Because of general interest. But this just kind of helps take it, to a bit of a greater understanding.
Right.
And again, like I said, it can take it to, just as you're looking at individual tasks, or you need a little committee that's
right,
doing this, or someone that's coming up with some employee incentives and bonuses. Would help to have, probably a wonder and invention person, kind of,
right,
someone with that creative, that's just what they like to do and they can think that through.
Right.
To have them, kind of part of that.
Gotcha.
Again, it's going to be different depending on the size of business. There's a one or two person, but you may have other people in your world that you can kind of bring in as you're bouncing ideas off.
Right.
If you're doing some brainstorming, have a wonder, an invention person come, sit down, do a coffee with, take them for lunch, run the idea past them. If you're smaller and you have someone discernment in your world, just go, hey, what do you think? What do you think of this?
Right.
How would you see that? How would you see this layout? Some galvanizer. Hey, how would you pitch this? Like, how do you think I'm going to get the best buy-in?
Right.
And they're just going to help give the ideas and the input. So going back to the family vacation, there's kind of different roles of where people, some love to plan the vacation.
Right.
I am not that.
That's not your role,
The booking part, that's not my part.
Right.
I can come up with some ideas of what we can do, but
Sure.
but I am not sitting at the computer out of joy
to execute upon that travel plan.
Exactly. And
Gotcha.
I got to read through 25 different destination options and the pros and cons to each one. I ain't doing it.
We're never going on holidays if Garth is booking the holiday.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, and then my wife, she'll look, she'll go, you know what? I think this.
Right.
I think that's the best one.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna go, hey, let's do it.
Well, that works good then. A good team.
Good team.
There you go.
So it plays out. It plays out in all areas where work is being done, where something's kind of being accomplished.
Right.
Those kind of are the 6 different, phases, pieces, kind of cogs in the machine. And then there's people that naturally are going to fit into each of those cogs itself.
Right. So I guess as we kind of get into closing here, I know there's 1,000,001 different personality tests and different assessments to, figure out what it is that you're good at and staff are good at. Is this a decent model that business owners could use, to not only find the optimal places for their employees to be, to kind of get the most out of them? And then I guess conversely, if they've run through the assessment, they've determined this, can it be kind of used to say, well, based on what it is that you're doing, you just don't work here. Maybe you're meant to be somewhere else entirely. Is this something that business owners could kind of use as a tool in that regard?
Yeah, I think so. And it might not even be we don't need you. Could be to go, you know what, we got you in the wrong role.
Right.
And there could be just some transition of okay, we need to shift some of that responsibility. Right. But absolutely, again, this is, the name, the 6 working geniuses. So it is the working genius that we're naturally going to go to. Now some of the other styles and sort of the other assessments, as I'm very familiar with, and a DISC, right, behavioral style, trainer and facilitator, very different. That's kind of a style of operation. It's a style of processing data. That's a style. Okay. That's a style of communication. It's a style of how kind of a lens in how we view and interact with the world. Right. Now that interacts. There's definitely crossover between the working genius, but the working genius is really probably more in how we approach, particular tasks and functions. Right. Again, because each of these 6 is, of an aspect of work or getting a task done in productivity, in moving from, again, that wonder stage to getting it to getting it completed. Right. So having an in-depth knowledge of where your employees are going to shine within these 6 working geniuses is going to enable you to get them into the seats that they're best suited for, to be able to get the most out of everybody's time in respect to the business. So no, that's definitely interesting. I mean, I think, I don't know, for me personally, as the firm continues to grow, you get significantly more personalities and people and abilities that kind of come through the door, and it becomes a continual, challenge, albeit a good one, to kind of keep making all of this mesh and work together, and to kind of be able to understand, some of the things that maybe drive people forward. I kind of did some of that DISC training with Garth too, and that was very insightful to understand about myself, and then just others in general into, what they could potentially be strong in those areas too. I think that helps me understand, and then helps me deal with the staff at the firm in a way that tries to always see them working in their strengths as best as possible. I mean, albeit there's probably things in every job that, you're not going to love everything, but if you can get people into those strengths and away from those frustrations as best as possible, it's probably just win-win across the board. So it is. Their productivity will go up.
For sure.
Their enjoyment, satisfaction, and participation in the business.
Right.
Is going to go up, which always helps with retention.
Right.
Always helps with culture.
For sure.
And it's kind of a win. It's kind of a win all the way around. And like I said, the great thing about the working genius doing the assessment, again, I think it's about a 10-minute.
Right.
It's a fairly quick process. It's inexpensive. Costs as much as buying your employees out, going out for a good lunch with them.
Right.
And again, that information, could be dissected internally, or, have someone that's familiar with it, and a coaching and team building, world like myself, and leadership, and have another, outside party come in, to help us maybe some analysis, and to go, okay, how can we, work to, this is what we got. Now how can we get the most out of it, or how do we move forward?
Right.
That's always an option as well, but it can definitely help, move the business forward.
Right.
And everybody walk away with a smile at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's abundantly important in today's employment market, because I know over the last number of years, it's been hard to find, new qualified staff to come in and kind of help us out. And, in speaking with clients, they're in the same boat, irregardless of what industry it is that they're in. So, I mean, if you can put some of these tools in place that benefit, and boost some of that retention, you're going to be better off. You get a bit of cost and time up front, but, long term, if you can get people sitting in the right seats and doing what it is that they enjoy doing, I think you're just going to pay huge dividends for yourself. So,
absolutely. Because you might be able to even hand off one of your frustrations to somebody else, because it's their strength.
That would be ideal.
And they're grateful that you did it. And they're like, finally, Finally, I've been wanting to solve this problem.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do this. I've been seeing the gap.
For sure.
And that's where really the genius comes in, is because it's natural to us. It's not that we, and none of us have all six.
Right.
Like, and that it's not bad. We're not going to be good, nor are we meant to be good in each or all of these. And it's not that we're right or that we're wrong. It's just, it's really part of our fiber of who we are.
Right.
And part of my wonder, I just love seeing problems, and I wonder, wow, man, I wonder why they have the desk there. They should have the desk there, because you could see much better in the movement of people and why lines are at different places.
But you're not moving that desk, are you?
I can move the desk, but I just see those things as I'm just interacting on my daily basis.
Right.
And to come in and to solve those problems is just, I'm already doing it in my head. So to help do it for someone else is just natural.
Right.
And that's kind of where this comes in,
Right.
and it just flows out of who we are.
For sure. No, that's excellent. Garth, I just really want to thank you for taking some time out to discuss this. I know that it's been hugely insightful for me. Lots of good things here that I can implement at my business, and I'm hoping the same can be said for the audience out there. So if anyone does want to touch base with Garth, maybe go through this assessment, speak with him to kind of take that next step, put some things into place to get your business moving in the most efficient manner possible. How can the audience get a hold of you?
Well, the best way would be right through our website, Your Limits Lifted.
For sure.
And we just love helping lift limits. And this is one of the ways that we can lift the limits in ourselves and in our business. And yourlimitslifted.com is the best way to get a hold of us.
Excellent. Well, once again, Garth, really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. Once again, for the Tax Talk podcast, Jared Pallon here. Thanks again for listening. Take care, and we'll talk again soon.